Want to do the pledge?
I got it.
We'll start in just a few minutes. Board Member Turkin is going to be here momentarily. Good morning, everybody. Thank you so much for coming. Today is Saturday, November 8th, 2025. The time is now 9:07 a.m. And the special joint workshop of the Boynton Beach Community Redevelopment Agency Board and the City of Boynton Beach Commission is now called to order. Let's proceed to the invocation led by Board Member Hay, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance led by Board Member Cruz. Let's all stand for the invocation and the Pledge of Allegiance.
Lord, we thank you for this day and this opportunity to once again to come together and dialogue about the future improvements to our city. We thank you for this combined meeting of CRA and commissioners, and we pray, Father, that we remember that it's not just about policies and projects, but it's about families and people. And as we make decisions, we ask that you be in the midst of all of our decisions. We ask it all in your name, we pray. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, everybody. Let me turn to Deputy City Clerk Tammy Stanzioni. If you could please begin the roll call.
Chair Shelton,
Present.
Vice Chair Hay,
Present.
Board Member Cruz,
Present.
Board Member Turkin,
Present.
Board Member Kelly.
Here.
Chair, you have a quorum.
Thank you. We are now moving on to additions, deletions, corrections to the agenda. Let's begin to my right with Board Member Cruz
None for me, thank you.
and Board Member Hay.
Nothing.
Board Member Kelly.
Chair, yes. I wanted to just very briefly, because we have a meeting coming up on Monday, we had a recent issue come up with a parking issue at the Pierce site. And I was talking to Catherine, and she said it would be a simple fix of our part of our agreement with them. And so I wanted to get a consensus that Catherine can come back to us on Monday with that proposed change so that we can reserve some of those parking spots for the business customers. We're getting a lot of construction employees parking there and preventing parking. So I just want to get a consensus today to direct Catherine to change that language or provide us some, information on that on Monday.
Yes, do we want to designate a specific number of parking spots so it's clear and concise?
I think that's something that we would collaborate with the business owner. I don't make that decision. I don't operate that restaurant. And I think maybe we allow Catherine to go negotiate and bring something back to this board for Tuesday, or hopefully. I'm assuming that's what your intention is.
Yes.
Commissioner
Yes, I would agree
Yeah,
with that.
because it would be, my understanding, it's as a simple fix to just allow them to reserve parking in their parking lot during business hours, because that's the time that they're having an issue, so,
Yeah, those guys are out there now.
right. So, okay.
And do you have any, Board Member Turkin, do you have any additions, deletions, anything?
Nothing new. Thank you.
Do we have a motion to approve the agenda?
So move.
Second?
We have a motion to approve and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Motion passes unanimously. Let's move on to legal. Counselor, are there any legal items to discuss?
Thank you, Board Chair. Catherine Rossmell, Lewis Longman, and Walker. No legal items, except I'll take your direction to bring something back for you to consider.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. Now let's begin informational items and disclosures by board members and CRA. Let's begin on my left with Board Member Turkin
Nothing, Mayor.
and Board Member Kelly
No, thank you, Chair.
and Board Member Hay
Nothing.
and Board Member
For me?
Cruz.
Thank you.
And I have nothing. Let's move on to the next portion of the agenda, which is public comments. The public comment section of the meeting is for public comment on all items on the agenda or items that are not on the agenda. Each speaker will be given a total of 3 minutes to comment on all items on the agenda. However, the board retains the right to increase or decrease 3-minute limit prior to the start of public comment. Each public speaker shall be given the same number of minutes unless it becomes necessary to terminate a speaker's comments in order to maintain orderly conduct and proper decorum in the public meeting. Persons making public comment may not assign or donate their public time to any individual to allow that other individual time to comment. However, any persons requiring assistance will be accommodated as required by the American Disabilities Act. Prior to addressing the board, speakers present at the meeting will go to the podium to make their comments, and speakers participating virtually will unmute their device at the time requested. Speakers may be asked to state their name and address for the record, and any person may provide written comments to the board prior to the board meeting. And you're on deck, Ms. Oyer.
Okay, thank you, Susan Oyer, Boynton Beach, and we don't actually have to give our addresses by law anymore, so you only have to state your city. I'm here to talk about a few things. First of all, I think under your plans, what is the status on that special utilities building that was built? That is supposed to power all of downtown and bring us tons of money and lots of cheap, free, easy power. And is it on deck? Is it running? We never hear about it yet. The residents, our taxes spent millions and millions of dollars building that over where the police substation is here, right across the street. And that utility was supposed to run everything downtown, like apparently it does in Jacksonville. It's supposed to be super cheap, easy, almost free power. And what is the status? And why are we never hearing about it? And where's the money going? And, you know, I think that's worth looking at as you look at your comp plans, because that was supposed to power the whole downtown and all these incoming apartment buildings that none of us want. So I think that's worth discussing and looking at. Yay, Dan's so excited. I walked up here this morning with this, huh? And you didn't even know about it. That tells me a lot about the status of this building that we spent millions of dollars on. When you're looking at your strategic plans and how you're going forward, what are your beautification goals? I've said this for years and years and years. The number one goal of the businesses, and CRA did this survey, the number one thing the businesses in this city want is beautification. There's been a delay on the beautification board. I know you're moving forward with it because Dan and I talk about it. You know, I send you stuff all the time as a commission. But where are we going? That needs to be part of your goals. What is the status of the Avenue of the Arts? We are in one of the original art cities. We should be promoting this. This used to be an economic development driver. We used to have tour groups come in and we would have tours up and down Ocean Avenue of our art. This is not happening anymore, and that's an easy moneymaker. We need to be focusing on kinetic, which is what sets us apart and makes us different than every other city. And kind of on the city side of things, that your tree ordinance is not being enforced because there's trees all up and down my street that are growing into all the assorted lines, and code does nothing to them. So get code out there to deal with the tree problem, and make sure you're taking the train out of your comprehensive plan, out of any and every plan. There is no train coming. Let's get it the heck out. Let's stop trying to define building and development in this city around a train that we're never going to get because we don't want it and we did not get it assigned to us. And so let's please take all that out. And thank you for your time this morning.
Thank you. Next, please.
Cindy Falco, DeCorado, Boynton Beach. I thought this was going to be a strategic planning because the last time we had one, it was actually a different kind of venue where they showed us kind of the ideas and we were able to impart and talk, and it was more not in a business forum, it was more community-minded where we were able to address and speak to the different parties and persons, and it was more free flow. I didn't realize it was going to end up like a regular meeting. But my concerns are for the future of Boynton Beach as I have a home here, and that's very perplexing to me as well, Susan, hearing that we spend all this money, plus the money we spent over here and for this building and $42 million that were stolen. I mean, it's just on and on and on. And where are we at with the $42 million that was stolen by the last regime? And I call it a regime because it was a hijack of our dollars, of our city, and of everything. And we had planned this strategic idea out months and months and years, and I thought we had come to a resolve, and to find out we're back to square one, and now we have other expenditures and things that are, I mean, when is this going to be built next to us? Who owns it? Do we own it? What are we doing with it? How are we building the businesses? And I don't know if you've seen that monstrosity of a building that they bought, that apartment complex they're building. Every time I drive by it, and I even try to look inside of it, it's just concrete everywhere. I mean, I don't even know how people are going to live there. It looks like a compound, a jail compound, to be honest with you. you. Has anybody went out there and looked at it? Have you looked at the construction of this place? It is hideous. I mean, I know it was the other regime, and I call them a regime because that's what they were. They took over our city, and now we look like we are not beautified, as Susan was talking about. I drive around, I'm a floral designer, I'm a floral artist, and I look and I go, where is the beauty, even coming off of I-95? It's disgusting. It's really an eyesore, and I grieve because I spent a lot of money to keep my home beautiful, and I spent a lot of money in taxes, which just went up again, and we have nothing to show for it but more ugliness. And I'm sorry, but I think District 2, they look beautiful. We look like we're like been the redheaded stepchild. What is going on, and why isn't this city spending its money, time, and energy and making it beautiful, making it a place for tourism, making it a place that you want to come to, instead of some place that you repel and do not want to come to, because you never know when you're going to be attacked by a police officer. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else for public comment?
Mayor, I do want to take a moment just to address the utility plant aspect that
Sure.
was brought up.
And there's no one on
That's the chiller plant, Susan, and that was designed to provide cheaper air conditioning essentially to all of the downtown buildings. When Town Square happened, we went into litigation, and when we were in the process of negotiating with Time Equities, who's now going to build our new Town Square, they did not see the necessity of using that, and that was the reason why that was not used in the future downtown plans.
Yeah, and I think that's unrelated to a utilities department. That was, from my understanding, I think that was Colin Groff's baby in the previous administration, where I think we have yet to identify the logic behind that initiative or see any form of return.
Yeah, it's just to get awards.
Yeah, so I
Yeah.
think there's a, I think if you look, there's something there that's, could or couldn't be nefarious. I'm not saying is or isn't, but I definitely think those concerns are, I think there's something there, but unrelated to utilities.
Yeah, you guys were exactly, you're correct. I just want to say that, but I right now that chiller plant serves probably about 10 to 15% of its capacity. The private aspect of Town Square was not built, and you're left with the public aspect of it, which obviously there's no ad valorem revenue coming in from public buildings, so.
And we have offered to have developers use it and build into it. And my understanding is that when it comes, the only really use that makes sense for using a type of chiller plant like we have is a hotel that doesn't have individual air conditioning systems, because that's, developers don't want to use a chiller plant for air conditioning, because as you know, like this entire building will go out, and they can't have that when you're talking about individual tenants. So I know I know staff has, every development that comes in, that's a conversation that is had on, we have this available and you can tap into this, and there's really not a lot of interest. So it's unfortunate. It is I think it's a pain in everyone's side that's sitting up here that we have this chiller plant that is not being utilized, because we got some awards for it and spent a lot of money. But like, you said, Commissioner Turkin, it was, somebody's baby, and we're all stuck with this. So those are my thoughts on that. So thank you. Sorry to interrupt the meeting.
Anyone else? Okay, seeing that there are no old agenda items, let's move on to the items under new business. The first item for discussion and consideration is the discussion and consideration of overall visioning of the CRA. So, Mr. Tack, like to.
Good morning, City Commission and CRA Board. Tim Tack, Acting Executive
mic on.
Director.
Is it on?
It's on.
Oh, okay.
I'm just not talking into it, maybe? Is that better? So at the September 18, 2025 special joint meeting, the City Commission and the CRA Board called for a special joint workshop, which is today, to discuss the overall visioning. It's open to your discussion, wherever you guys would like to go and discuss. And we're looking at possibly the CRA plan, properties for acquisition, or our goals and our approach to property acquisition within the CRA. So it's up for your discussion and consideration.
Yeah, I'll start with some of the vision component of the discussion. You know, as we've been discussing over the last maybe 8 months about establishing, you know, a switch to focus on waterfront, commercial development, recreational, marina facilities. I'd like to get consensus to have staff research in creating a marina overlay district. That way we can establish a clear vision of what we want to accomplish, regulatory framework surrounding our marina now, any potential CRA or city-owned properties, so that we could position this district as an economic driver for the city. So would like to have staff explore any opportunities that would attract, support marine-related businesses that fit our strategic plan, as along with our CRA plan, which is the enhancement of waterfront access, commercial waterfront, and then the expansion of marine recreational. It's identified in our strategic plan. It's identified in our CRA plan. What I'm looking for is that we just have that in our land use as well as an actual overlay.
In conjunction with that, I would like to know how do we define waterfront property? Because I've heard a lot of talk about over on 13th Avenue, Northwest 13th Avenue, that is being talked about as possible waterfront property. And I want to make sure that we're all on the same page before we move further with defining what is waterfront property. Because a lot of these people have been living there for 50, 60 years, and if you go with the waterfront definition, which I have no objection to, that could mean that their property and taxes will go up, and many of those are senior citizens. So we need to be careful when we start assessing property values and what is waterfront and what is not. So if we're talking about intercoastal, fine, no problem.
Yep.
But we need to be careful when we go inland. That's my concern.
Yeah, for clarification, what I'm looking for is the intercoastal waterway, a marine overlay district at that site. That, I don't know, IT laptop just crashed. Yeah, I'm not, that is a good point, because waterfront, as you know, in real estate could be like a little pond, right? You could advertise a house as waterfront property, and there's like a little pond in front of it, or a lake. So, yeah, for clarification, I'm envisioning the intercoastal waterway for that overlay district.
Okay.
There we go.
Thank you. I would like to ask this question for my clarification. I have the agenda in front of me, but what are we looking to come out of here as a product today in terms of why we're here, the purpose of this meeting, what are the outcomes, what is this meeting all about?
I think when we look at the agenda item, it seems that it has been consolidated with a few different discussion items. I know one of those was land acquisitions that Commissioner Cruz had discussed about looking at, hey, we're purchasing these properties. Why? What's our vision, like strategically, so that we're not just purchasing properties to purchase them. If I'm wrong, please correct me, Commissioner Cruz, but I think that was one of the ideas. The other one was discussion of what I had just brought up of a waterfront district, destination commercial, and make sure that, at least for me, my understanding is that city and CRA are lock in step and executing and mirroring the CRA and strategic plan, and making sure that they have the instruction, the consensus, the resources to then, I would imagine, design some form of plan that, they could, bring back. I'm not 100% sure. That's probably, more discussion amongst Tim and Dan of what that looks like. But my understanding is that there's a few items that have been consolidated and, been categorized as like the vision of the CRA. If I'm not mistaken, Tim, please chime in if
No,
I'm
no,
wrong.
that's
But I also
absolutely
think
right.
that maybe we are doing this and then we may have to do it again after we put RMA in place after the contract negotiation, because that's why we brought them on board, is their vision and their connections and things that they've already done. So I think that they know things that none of us up here know. So I don't know if it's a little,
And that's,
I think that's a fair point, and I think what Commissioner Hayes said about what are we doing here, what are we gonna get out of, is maybe that's dialogue, maybe that's a few points or a few properties or a few things that are tangible, that then when there is a transition to RMA, it can be easily picked up and followed through with a follow-up workshop. That way, we're not just up here talking and that we're moving towards something, because I definitely don't want to be here just to have dialogue. I think we need to hone down on, 3 or 4 things, whether they're properties, whether they're districts, whether they're, discussing the hotel, whatever that may be, and then move forward from there. And then, like the mayor said, follow up with another joint workshop. I guess, I'm assuming that's what you're insinuating, Mayor?
possibly, I mean, I think that we're really not going to know until we get them in and sit down, and I think there might be some more efficient ways to do it.
We're looking at another joint workshop in the beginning of the new year.
Okay.
So timing-wise, I don't think there's going to be an issue with onboarding and getting RMA in, and then also coordinating with the city on whatever that overlay vision would look like.
Right.
And at least today, we can get our legislative priorities
Right.
done,
yeah, that's.
so we know what we're doing
Mayor.
in
Yeah,
Tallahassee.
that's exactly where I was going with this question, and we're going to be bringing in RMA, and I could see having this conversation again.
Oh, for
And
sure,
are
yeah.
we premature here, or are we looking to, see, we have a CRA master plan.
It's from.
Over the years,
26
we've had several of those master plans that collect dust. So I'm sort of concerned to the point that we're not here and RMA comes in and change everything that we're talking about here this morning, because that's not the direction that he wants to go in.
No, I think what we need is the overall meaning of this meeting is to give direction to both myself and Tim, so we can actually sit down with RMA and explain what the vision of the board is going to be moving forward from both a CRA and city vision.
I apologize respectfully. If I may clarify for the record that RMA has not officially been put under contract, and that is still up for decision-making. So RMA in this conversation is a stand-in for whoever ultimately fills the executive director. Right now, they're the successful proposer, but that is not a completed decision.
Right.
Thank you.
Vision.
Right. So, I mean, when this came up, I think it has evolved. I feel like every time we talked about the joint meeting, we added something else to it. One of the things that I have brought up many times, and we have started the discussion, I think ultimately this is going to be a lot of discussions that we're going to have, especially when we're talking about writing a new or creating a new CRA master plan on what the last one was done in 2016. We're now, 11 almost years out. The vision, the city evolves, vision changes depending on, leadership, but also depending on the residents and what they're looking for and who we represent. So, one of the things that, has I don't want to say worried me or been problematic for me is that we continue to acquire properties with no plan as to what we're doing. And so I was looking forward to having this meeting to kind of look at, what is our vision when we purchase a property? Is it I know some of them can be long-term when you're talking about, purchasing blocks. Some of them are just like, that's a great deal, let's pick it up and see what we can do with it. But when we're sitting on properties for 10, 15 years, we're coming up against, it seems like it's far away, but 2044 is not so far away when we're sitting on a bunch of land. And so I was wanting to start that discussion of, are there any of these properties that we have that we can either, put it out to an RFP for workforce single-family homes, or what are we doing with the post office? Can we start talking about what our vision is for that, that parcel, so that we can then start having that discussion on what that's going to look like. It's one of our main corners of Seacrest and Boynton Beach Boulevard, and so if that means that then we're having community meetings, I want to start that process instead of just sitting on it and waiting, and then the post office moves, and then we're having that discussion. So I think this has evolved. I think it started out as oh great, let's talk about the properties that we have, to then let's talk about a waterway marina overlay, to let's talk about the CRA master plan. So I think we've kind of bounced around quite a bit. But I think it's important that we start having these conversations instead of just continuing to purchase properties, even if it's a single-family lot or something bigger like the inn. So now we have the inn. What's our plan? Because do we want to sit on the $8 million and just sit and wait? So, or do we need to start having community meetings? It's about to be knocked down in the next 30 to 60 days. Do we need to set some community meetings to talk about what the residents' vision is and what our vision is? And so that was kind of my hope for this meeting, is that we would start having these conversations so that we're not just continuing to, go meeting to meeting, purchasing land, and not really doing the other part of it. Which is the development side of it. And, whoever we do, ultimately bring in as the executive director, I've had conversations about what my vision is, that we focus on federal highway. We have neglected federal highway, and I feel like that is something that we can really invest in and put our, and it's in the 2016 CRA plan that we focus on federal highway, and yet here we are with a lot of empty, dilapidated blight along federal highway. And so that was kind of my hope for this meeting, is that we could start having this conversation, and that's why we've kind of set this ongoing joint CRA commission meeting, is so that we are now starting to do the work, because it's difficult to do the work during our regular meetings.
Thank you, Mayor. Just for clarification, I just want to see if I got consensus to do the marina, have staff at least research that portion of a marina overlay district.
On my end, I'm a yes.
Okay.
And can we get,
See what that looks like,
You
how
know,
the transition happens.
can we get some
what it
updates from
means.
time to time as to what's happening? Sometimes, sometimes things start to move forward, and I feel like sometimes information gets to certain board members, but sometimes not all board members. So I just want to be mindful of that as we're, requiring consensus to make these type of important decisions, that we, keep everybody in the loop as to what's happening before decisions are made. Yeah, thank you.
And then I think Commissioner Kelly hit it right on the head. I think I have a proposal. Maybe, as we transition with the new executive director role, maybe it's not a bad idea to have some form of survey, at least to kick off what the Boynton Beach Inn vision is, because that is gaining a lot of traction through the community. So I think a survey is simplistic. It's a start. It's easy. It allows feedback. I can tell you from what I've seen, it's people don't want housing.
Right.
Definitely entryway has been discussed. So I don't know if my colleagues have an appetite to start with a survey. I think it's an easy tool to at least start getting some feedback as we make that transition. So I don't know what your guys' thoughts are on that. And then I know that as the CRA, we've adopted that policy to where we can allow builders to solicit some of these properties to build a single-family home. So maybe we capitalize on that, widen the scope or hone down on that initiative.
I've got a lot of emails and also on my Facebook page, no more apartments, no more apartments.
Yeah.
So I think that's overall, but it's something that's gonna make the place look beautiful. It's the gateway into our downtown. And what's the timeline on this demo? I've heard 2 different times. 60 days from now. Or was that when it was back? Like, is that backdated?
We're anticipating somewhere between Thanksgiving and Christmas.
Okay.
I have,
Is that right? Because I was just told late January from, I think, someone the other day in the city.
Kevin, do you have an update? Come on up, please.
I just think it's a big moment, considering how many kids were trafficked there, even since I've been in office. I think I'd love to see that place.
I've been telling them
get
it's
down.
60 days from the day they awarded, which was Tuesday, based on the asbestos study, permitting, and mobilization. Is that accurate?
Yes, that's correct, and there may be opportunity. We started permitting a little bit earlier through our BG group, and so there might be a window between Thanksgiving and Christmas. That was a quiet plan to see. Of course, we'll let you all know way ahead in advance, but yeah, January would be a safe bet, and we've been working behind the scenes to try to jump up quicker, but for now, yes, 60 days is it. Yeah.
Okay. That will be a big celebration, and that gives us enough time to coordinate with the new executive director, do the survey, possibly have a Forest Park meeting, which I would like to do.
Yeah, I think that's very important. Doug Bruderman can
Absolutely.
set that up for us. I don't know if we want to maybe throw out some ideas or leave it to staff to develop those ideas for the survey.
I think we ought to leave it to staff to.
Okay, all right.
We can go ahead and put a draft survey together, bring it back before you, and you guys can approve those questions or add questions you like.
Priorities, maybe, they can rank priorities use the former the CRA plan as like a guide of what was on it before and how it would change.
Because we've
what
always
kind of
looked for as a
resident
part of the.
vision has changed.
We've always looked for it as a part of this area plan, a gateway feature within there. And this has always been identified as a critical piece of property that would be able to effectuate the Boynton Beach Boulevard District Plan.
Absolutely.
I do want to say that I support a survey to hear community feedback. And in addition to that, we as the leaders of the city elected by the people can also have our conversations with our constituents. And I think for me specifically, I would say that I would support, again, I don't want to get preemptive, but I do want to say I support not putting housing there. I think that that's something that the community has already started screaming about. And also, if it was a hotel, I would not be opposed to, looking at what we could do with it. But my concern is, one of the reasons why we purchased the property was to prevent Live Local from happening. So, I do believe that we need to have a nice hotel somewhere in our downtown, but we'll see what the survey says. But in the meantime, I want to say I don't support having any sort of housing there.
Yeah, I'm happy to hear that.
I think when it comes to the hotel, it's better to have it somewhere down here so that people can be going to the beach. And I think to put a hotel in that same location, it's just going to bring a lot of the same problems unless it's very high end. But my concern is if I'm a high-end hotel developer, what about the rest of the street? The street looks
On
rough.
95, right?
Yeah, and again, this was before, I think, all of our times, but the light there, you can't cross the street. There's a lot of pedestrians just all over the road. I drive it every single day. I think you come into the neighborhood that way. The design of it's kind of weird, right? It's not cohesive for people to be able to go from one location into the downtown. So and again, I know that we've heard many times about the 13 parcels. And I don't know if that's going to be discussed today at all or where we are with that. I haven't heard anything on that issue. But again, my concern there is it's not a clean assemblage and we would need strong community input before
100%.
we even thought about doing that.
paying
And
for
again,
that.
I'm not opposed to it because it's going to get rid of, a lot of those 13 parcels are still being, they're landlord owned and they're tenant occupied with sober homes, and we know this. And, I just think that that's a way for us to really control what's going on, but not if it's 13 parcels.
Well, and really what the resident buy-in is gonna be, because sure, the neighborhood may want us to purchase it, but then what do they want to see there that will benefit them, but also benefit and bring somebody in? Because when you pay a lot of money for this property, that means that then somebody is going to have to pay us for that money, or it's gonna have to be some sort of partnership, and there has to be value in it to bring in a developer to develop that, whether it's some commercial aspect, whether it's some, mixed bag, but, to spend that kind of money, there has to be resident buy-in on what they're willing to look at, so.
And hopefully with the hotel gone, because I know the police are using it now for training.
Yes.
But with the hotel gone, maybe that still is going to free up some patrol because there's a lot of stuff still going on the weekends. The gas station, behind the check cashing store. Again, I live 2 streets over. I think that, I see it every day. So, I think that hopefully there's just something that we can start doing about the businesses that have been there forever, but they don't really care about the community.
Yeah, we're in a different place also than we were 10, 15 years ago.
Yeah.
And I don't think we're going to have an issue bringing a developer in. They're going to be swarming the city trying to get that landmark area of Boynton Beach Boulevard 95, because we have a plethora of different projects coming, ranging from homes to also commercial development. So I think we're going to essentially have the pick of the litter, and it's going to be the board's decision what they want to be the icon focus of the city going forward.
Yeah, I think it's what the residents want too. And that it's going to be something that the residents are able to use, and people that don't live in Boynton. Just try to get some money into this city.
I had a little laundry list of items, and most of them been mentioned already, but just to review in my own head, I think the first step is, like we said, community input with the survey. The other thing that that came to my mind is, in no particular order, but the federal highway, of course, is a challenge to the city of Boynton Beach on the north end and the south end, as well as within the city. I just see we need to really light it up, if I can use that terminology. Our city is one of the darkest cities physically lighting, not morally, but we need to look at that, those dark spots, if I can use that term. We need to light it up. And of course, the I-95 corridor there, coming off the exit, I see it as a golden nugget. We have an opportunity to market ourselves as to what we put there. One of the options would be a really nice hotel, because it's not very often that you see a really nice hotel right off the exit of I-95. And I think that would help to put Boynton more on the map, is to have a nice complex there. The other thing being the marina along the intercoastal. When you look at the physical location of the nearest marina from the north and the south, this becomes a real opportunity for us to expand and enhance our existing marina in terms of acquisition lands and having a plan to do whatever we want, whether or not we want to increase the slips or restaurants or housing or whatever. We can talk about those things. And then I hear a lot of talk about no more apartments, but in certain areas of our city, we could put additional affordable housing, because there are still people that need housing that can't afford it. So I know you're not saying to push that off the table, but by the same token, I do want that to stay on the table and be a viable consideration in the future. Another thing I I'm looking at is some type of, and I've talked with Andrew a little bit about this, some kind of a youth center for our youth, because right now in Boynton, we have Ezel Hester Center, we got Callum Sims Center and the pool. We have some amenities, but I'm looking for, as I see in other areas as I travel around, a youth center that has a lot of activities going on and a lot of things to keep our kids off the street, and more so than just the football and soccer. So we can talk more about the youth center. And land acquisition is certainly important to me, because last time I heard, the good Lord is not making any additional land. And when we have an opportunity to grab land that would serve us well in the future, we need to go ahead and move on that. So I'm all for taking a look at that, maybe doing some swapping with the city or CRA or whatever. But we certainly need to make land a top priority, land acquisition in our city. One of the things that the BDB talks about a lot of time is Class A office space, which is one of the items that we don't have much of here in Boynton Beach. And that's a consideration to draw other top businesses to our city if we have the proper spacing and office space for that. So there's a lot on the table that we need to talk about. But I think the first step is, like we said earlier, is to have a city survey and see what our residents have on their mind and what they would like to see in this city and the direction they would like to see us go in. And then from there, we can factor in all the other ideas that we have. So that's where I am.
I agree with you on the lighting, and I think that it definitely goes on the west side of Seacrest, because again, our neighborhood, we have no lights from Seacrest all the way to 95. And
Right.
now that school's in session, I'm getting a lot of complaints about that. But I think that we also need to start focusing a little more on our seniors. You know, as I sat on the senior advisory board, they got $10,000 last year. They spent $9,000 on a prom. And there is nothing that is getting the seniors mobilized, getting them out of the house. They're not able to do anything. And again, I'm getting blown up about it. And I get it, there's just not enough money. But $10,000 was all blown into one prom, and it was a fantastic event. But what are they going to do the rest of the year? So I know you're mentioning the youth, but I have to say that I'm more concerned about the seniors at this moment when it comes to trying to facilitate something for them.
On that note, a while ago, we had purchased that land across from the senior center, and I know there's probably potential to abandon that roadway and essentially join those two parcels. Have we discussed potentially looking at some type of conceptual or some type of design where we could enhance or renovate the current, or just completely redo that senior center and create a space where, you know, maybe it does include housing, maybe it's completely recreational, and it has, you know, a lot more space for amenities or activities that seniors could do, you know, because that space now isn't the biggest. And so, you know, maybe there's an opportunity there where we can, you know, provide more senior affordable housing and then also provide some amenities. Maybe we put it out to RFP or develop a plan or a concept, put it out to RFP and see if anyone bites. You know, I know there was some dialogue with that. I don't know where that's been, but I think that is, you know, I don't want to say easy pickings, but I think that's a tangible accomplishment that we could look at.
What we could do is there's a couple of different things that we have the ability to do. So one of the ideas was floated probably about 2 years ago as far as a Parks and Rec bond, and being that the senior center falls into that, those funds, whatever if we went out to bond council, see what kind of bond that we could push out and have the citizens vote on that during elections. And if they do pass it, we could use those funds to build a senior center that's going to be controlled by the city. The other idea is the P3 aspect. So we could do a P3 with a private developer. They could build a new senior center with affordable senior housing on top. That's also been floated. But I think what we need to do is maybe add that as a future agenda discussion item to get some clarity from the board as far as like what direction you guys would want to see the city going into. But I feel like any plan or design that we move forward with, exactly what you brought up, Commissioner Turkin, that the roadway right there would need to be abandoned in that overall design. So there's a lot of untapped potential with the city owning, or the CRA owning that parcel of land in the senior center there. Anything we do in the city of Boynton Beach, we want to be unique, and we want to make sure that we put forth a quality item. And there's it's limitless. I would go over there, I'll speak to some of the seniors that utilize that facility live on my street. And I talked to this lady, her name's Peg, and she goes there with a friend, and she was saying, like, we don't have an indoor aqua aerobics pool, things that, so you really have a lot of untapped potential in what you could have done from the private sector, or if we wanted to fund it from the city standpoint.
Yeah, I think economically, and when you look at producing, those higher standard of amenities, someone's got to pay for it, right? And I think, where you could accomplish something spectacular with more amenities, more recreation, how do you get that done? I think, my position would be a P3, and then someone would need to provide some form of housing, at a senior rate, which is good, right? So you're not displacing seniors that are getting priced out of their homes now due to taxes and insurance. And then you also allow the private sector to invest in those amenities or create something spectacular. So I would be in favor of looking at a P3. I think that is the most tangible way. I don't know, we've discussed the bond. I know that was a little bit of a trigger pull reaction the last time when we were discussing. I think there's other uses for the bond. The CRA doesn't have to go to referendum for the bond. It just has to meet Florida, was it statute 119? What's the statute?
For bonds?
Yeah.
For bonds or
P3s.
Bonds for the CRA.
I don't have it off the top of my head, but
Okay,
I can
that's
give you a
okay.
second.
The CRA doesn't have to go to referendum. Right? The CRA can pull a bond without going to referendum.
Right, so we have specialized bond counsel in my office that I would defer to for that, because it's not my area of expertise. But CRAs do generally have different mechanisms because they don't have ad valorem funding. We receive ad valorem funding by virtue of the TIF, but because the CRAs don't have the authority to levy it, they don't have the same restrictions on their general funding and bonding activities.
Perfect, thank you. So, I think there's a mechanism there, and it's, how do we want to leverage that mechanism, for something? Is it this? I don't know. But I think, I think there's an opportunity with P3 there.
Yeah, Commissioner Turkin, I 100% agree. Before we were even looking at this property, those were conversations I was having with staff, that it's a great opportunity for us to rebuild a community center that is desperate to get rebuilt, and also provide senior housing, which we are in desperate need of having that option for our residents. And so I would not be opposed to looking into and having staff kind of explore what options are out there, or maybe even potentially talking to developers to get the kind of the temperature of the water on such a project, and see if it's something that's worth having further conversations on. And if we get down the road and nobody's really interested in such a thing, which I think would be crazy if they're not, but if they're not interested, then we can look at what other avenues to do it. But I think you're right. I think to get the amenities that if you look at some of the development projects and what they provide to their residents, and thinking that that's what our seniors deserve and could have by partnering with, with someone to have, to have that, I think that it's a win for our seniors. It's a win for the city to really be able to partner and have a good product come out of this. So that's my position on it. I think it's something worth exploring, and staff looking at that, whether that's, once we have an executive director filled, to go down that road and, meeting with city staff and working together to test that out and see what the temperature is of doing a project like that.
Mayor, Commission, so as a part of our ILA with the CRA, I believe we do have funding to do some preliminary feasibility studies on the senior center. We have paused that a little bit. We were waiting to fill one of the project manager positions, which I would believe we just recently did. That's going to be the dedicated CRA project manager. So we'll be putting that towards that project. He'll be doing that project, as well as there's been an opportunity for some additional land on 4th Street that we were going to be looking at considering potential alternative to redeveloping the current location. So we are looking at all that stuff, and we do plan to bring it back. It just hasn't been prioritized as the highest project on the list, but it is coming forward within the next, I would say, next 6 months. We should have something back to the commission and CRA board.
One other thought that I have, one of the things that I've noticed as I travel from city to city, that they all have, maybe I've been around too long, a certain character about that city. And what I mean by that, some cities you go into, you can tell right off as you enter that there's a lot of tender love and care for this city. The shrubberies are cut and trimmed, grass and all that kind of good stuff. There's an identity about that city. To me, that adds character to that city that they are identified by. Where I'm going with this is that a lot of the poles that we have in our city are the teal color, and they have been that way for quite some time. Our bridge, if you look at some of the older streets, right down MLK on the east side of the highway, all over in the community, you still have that teal color, but they have lately been replaced with a different color. I think it adds a certain character. It sets Boynton apart. I think there's something to be said, and as far as I'm concerned, this is a low-hanging fruit that we could do instead of painting it that color, whatever color that may be. We could stick with the teal because it adds character. If once you drive into Boynton, you see all these teal, not something that we didn't invent. It was already in existence, but we seem to be going away from that. So I guess I just like to see that. The forefathers thought that it add character by painting those poles that, and I can just envision in my head riding into Boynton and the poles are the same color as well as the shrubbery and everything else so neatly trimmed. I think what we're trying to do here is to clean up our city, make it look better overall. And I think that's just another piece of the puzzle, if you would take it that way. And just, instead of painting the poles like right here in Town Square, we painted the poles black and just across Federal Highway, there are the teal. So just in that one road, we changed colors. What was wrong with just keeping it teal? I know it's a small potato, but I think overall, and the big picture of the matter, it would add a certain character to our city if we just continue with that color. That's just a feeling that I have. I don't have any stats or statistics to back that up, but it's just something that I think it would enhance the city of Boynton Beach.
Well, considering I saw someone urinating on a pole about 2 days ago, I don't know whether's that better, black or teal, when it comes to that. So maybe we need to do a study on that. Just kidding. But like, I think we have to go in about having community pride. And maybe as we're tightening up some of these ordinances and people will start caring more about the neighborhood, and then, yeah, I agree, we need to beautify it in a simple but clean way. But I'm sure the teal probably shows the urine more than the black. I'm just saying, it's just an observation. I'm sorry, I saw it.
It's interesting because when Discover the Palm Beaches came recently and they did the State of the Tourism, I wore a teal dress because of the light poles, and I'm like, what's something that? And they had the sailfish as the prop. They have props for different cities, and so I thought that was great. But to me, it is a representation, and to me, teal and having those light poles be teal does have like a meaning,
branding,
and it adds character to the city, and it adds identity to the city as a coastal area. So I think that's great. I definitely support.
Presentation is a good word.
Yeah.
How we marketing ourselves.
So I would support that, and I understand some of them are maybe owned by FPNL, and I don't know. So maybe that complicates things a little bit, but maybe we could potentially have an ordinance where within our city limits, we encourage that, or,
The color of the light posts are not my top priority right
Oh, it's
now.
not mine either,
I think
but-
we can get there at some
Yeah.
point, but we have a lot of development coming off Ocean Avenue, and I think a lot of those buildings are gonna have their own characters, their own architectures, their own color schemes, and I think once those are developed, then we can really get a good read, and I like the teal, just for the record, but, some people don't, that's okay. I think we can get a good read if what fits better. Maybe it is black, maybe it is teal, but I don't, back to, I think, the lighting, which was touched on, that is a very important thing. And I want to light it up also. We've been talking about this for months, and I think that within the CRA's bounds, I think lighting does fall into the potential funding. So I don't know if that's a master plan. I don't know if that's looking at potential sources with solar. I know there was a vendor, I brought this up before at FLC, that does a lot of beach lighting, right? That's solar powered.
Solar panel.
And, maybe there's an opportunity to do that for some of these adjacent streets off of the downtown. I don't know if we establish a lighting fee for new development, you know what I mean? And, or maybe a landscaping fee. There's a lot of things that are going to cost money, right? And maybe, obviously I want to be a good business partner with people investing in the city, but, time and time again, we're exhausting a lot of our revenues to just simple city services. Whereas I think we can partner with the private sector to kind of, give and take for some of these things launching in the downtown. But I mean, for us to, have almost, over $1 billion invested in the downtown and some of these adjacent streets to where you're walking in the dark and you run into a couch is unacceptable, and so I think that should be a very like laser focused position that we should have. Because I mean, people are going to drive around when they're looking to move or they're looking to visit an area, and they might love Ocean Avenue, but they might go a couple streets down and be like, oh, the roads don't look that good. You know what I mean? Yeah, you want to see tangible improvements around the downtown, and I think staff has done a great job because there's so much going on, and there's just only so much that we can do, right? And so I don't know if we need more staff. I don't know if we need more planners. I don't know if we need more project managers, whatever we need that the CRA can partner with the city as a funding or source or mechanism. Let's look at that, right?
That's great. We have heard you from some of the previous meetings. I can tell you that William Leedy, who's our new city engineer, as well as with Kevin, they have started coming up with a draft outline of a plan on how we're going to attack looking at lighting in the city, looking at certain corridors, looking into the neighborhoods, prioritizing. I can tell you lighting, it seems a little bit simple saying that lighting, we're going to light it up. I can tell you I was at a public meeting this week where lighting was a subject of, we put new lighting in and the adjacent property owners were very upset, you know, because it's shining in their house. So it is a touchy subject. It's not as easy as a broad brush as it could be. I think we all agree that, you know, lighting is important. But we do facilitate that. We will be coming forward to the commission, or either in the January or the joint meeting we have coming up. We're going to present an outline of how we're going to approach that.
I have a question, and I know this is probably a problem that you get a lot of time is Pence Park. Oh, yeah. I mean, I drove by Pence Park on the way here. I was going to go to Duncan, but the line was so long, and it was rough this morning. And I'm getting, like the other day, I got pictures of some gun shells, bullet shells. I don't know if you got those that happened there. So I don't know if we're going to light up Pence Park. I know there's a plan, but also don't know if there's possibility to get some cameras there too, because that's something that I'm just getting loads of complaints on. About the houses across the street. I believe those houses are condemned. So what's the process when the city condemns a home? Like how does it get torn down? Because we do have them on 4th. We have the one across from Pence Park, and that's creating people to come there on the weekends and at night and do some shady stuff. So once it's condemned, how long does it take to get them torn down?
The process has changed a little bit, and it depends on which avenue we're going. You know, you have the code enforcement route, and as well as you have the building official. If it's an unsafe, unsanitary structure, the building official can react to it. I think it's a 90-day process or a little bit further. There's a lot of steps that he has to go through with tagging the building, red tagging it, doing a advertisement twice in the Palm Beach Post, and those are the process. I'm not sure if that has been enacted on those particular properties, but we definitely will look into it.
Yeah, they're on the north side.
Yeah, I saw the grass this week.
Yeah, and but I mean, there was just tons of people there this morning, and I do get a lot of complaints from a resident that walks there every morning, and early morning and late at night. There's a lot of activity there that's questionable. So I don't know if that's something we can start dealing with.
One other question I had is a little bit off topic. I know Commissioner Hay, Vice Mayor Hay had mentioned a community center, or youth center. That's something that I'm pretty passionate about. And, looking on the west side of the city, I know this is just kind of a CRA side of it, but we really do have a very lack of community centers or infrastructure on the west side of 95. That's something that I would love to see us focus a little bit of time on, not, obviously today, but in the future. And then as well as some of the vacant land that the city has, like we have the 40 acres of the old landfill. We also have the golf course out there that is in desperate need of a new clubhouse. So there's also some things outside of this area that, we're going to need to speak about as well.
Please.
Thank you. Thank you, Andrew, for bringing that up. And to agree with the rest of the board on lighting it up, I know we've talked about this briefly at other commission meetings, but right near and around Crowder Dog Park, I understand that, the developer created that park as part of some development agreement, and it is private property. However, it is a public park that the residents use every single day to walk their dogs, to play with their dogs, and it's like the hub, like the social hub for all the public social hub for the residents. So I do want to really focus when we think about lighting. Of course, Federal Highway is very important, Pence Park as well, and also Crowder Dog Park in that area, because it is very much used by the public on a daily basis. Thank you.
Andrew, real quick, do we have general park hours and lighting schedule? Because I know in the Meadows, they're off for a certain amount of time. Do we have, do you know the schedule? Or, you can get back to me on it, but we do have a lighting park schedule. And I know that in the Crowder Dog Park that Commissioner Cruz is talking about, it's owned and maintained by the by the HOAs or the residents, the property management company. They're the ones that maintain it. So I would assume that any lighting that gets put in, even though it's our named park, it's really their park. So, you know, we would, I guess, have to have conversations with them about wanting to add any lighting to that park, but it's ultimately that neighborhood's park, and it's not something that we pay to maintain. That's my understanding, correct?
We own the park, they maintain portion of the park. Mostly they maintain the landscaping and irrigation and stuff like that. The hard improvements the city still maintains. So lighting would be something that would be under the city's purview. We do have a schedule for lighting in the city. Most either on a photo cell or they're on a timer that gets adjusted. I think we do have some parks, it just depends on what amenities are in the parks, that whether or not they're at dusk to dawn or if they close at 10. So those are something that would be very specific to the location, but we can definitely, if there's something that's a problem, we can look into.
I don't want to add lighting to a park that we're not using after 6 PM. So, I mean,
Right.
it doesn't.
Sure.
So, you know, if we could just make sure that we're being, you know, I mean, like Meadows, I know they're out there playing basketball till, 9 or 10 o'clock at night, but at a dog park I'm not going to take my dog at 6 o'clock at night when it's pitch black to the dog park either, whether there's lighting or not. So, so just, be mindful of that also, but I'm not opposed to
I do wanna-
adding lighting.
If I can quickly respond to that, I've gotten multiple complaints from residents in the area. And when I say the dog park, I don't mean just the park itself, but people are walking their dogs on the sidewalks up until 10, 11 o'clock at night. We have multiple apartments, townhomes, and people within that area that have nowhere else to walk their dogs but the sidewalk area once the dog park is closed. So the complaints are mainly safety complaints, that they don't feel safe walking late at night because it's literally pitch dark. You can't really see anything at all. On one side, you do have the commercial plaza, which has lighting, but across the street. On the other side, there's absolutely no lighting whatsoever at nighttime, and people don't feel safe walking their dogs at night, and that's kind of the concern. Thank you.
Go ahead.
I was just gonna pivot back to Federal Highway Corridor. Yeah, and Seacrest, I think, so obviously, when we look at like the basic functions of CRA, eliminate slum and blight, how do we do that? We purchase properties, we redevelop. I think there's an avenue too where when the mayor talked about Penn's Park, some of these condemned properties where you just have completely absent landowners, I think there's opportunity where the CRA can look at purchasing some of these properties and trying to get these landlords to start moving, right? Obviously, we only have, a limited amount of funds allocated annually for property acquisition. And obviously, we want to have vision for these properties. Sometimes that vision, I believe, is just eliminating what's already there, right? And then, not eliminating a space where you have undesirable activity, right? And that looks different depending on the property. J.C. Park, all we did was establish, some fencing there. Shout out to Kevin, that was a great project. And, you don't have as much of undesirable activity there, right? Some of these commercial properties that were completely run down, broken, condemning that, you remove the undesirable activity or loitering, whatever. So I think there's an opportunity where, as we look at potential bonds that the CRA could look into, maybe we look at, and I don't know if there's legal framework for this that follows Florida statute, but looking at creating a bond where we are aggressive in land acquisition on specifically for the Federal Highway Corridor, right? Obviously, we want to talk about that, but I think this is a realistic action item to where we can look at a bond and start purchasing properties, partnering with the private sector. Maybe you look at RFPs when, contingent on purchasing properties, which I know has been discussed in the past, which I think is a pretty good idea. But as we get, more clarification on CRA bonds, maybe pulling a bond, for aggressive property acquisition to really execute a vision for the federal highway corridor, you know, is a tangible action item that this board can pursue. That's something that I think is a pretty good idea and allows us to get our feet moving.
Okay.
Start with that abandoned car wash.
What's that?
Let's start with
The
that
one on
abandoned car
Federal?
wash, yeah.
Yeah.
That thing, it makes me crazy. Just just south of the canal, I'm like, why, I mean, it has been fenced in
I know we have
and
the strip mall, I think we foreclosed on that now. It's built, when's the demo? It hasn't been okay, all right. So there's definitely quite a few opportunities along Federal Highway.
And I do think all the changes that have been happening with code, which we've talked about this, many times, is there were policies in place that really weren't being, put into place. So I
Right.
think with that happening, it should be a lot easier to start stacking these violations on these properties and taking some action later on, because that is the only way we're gonna clean up Forest Park to Federal Highway. I can name 5 properties right now that are just nuisance properties I hear about all the time, and the ones on Fourth, just south of Butcher and the Bar, the ones across from Pence Park, they're condemned, they're empty, so let's get them and tear them down, because if there's nothing there, no one can loiter there. There's nowhere to hide.
Yep. And I want to touch on one point that I missed that I think is probably the most important about potentially, performing this aggressive property acquisition initiative is we then have control of what we want to see developed, right? And so what better way to deliver to our constituents and the residents by having more leverage in what we want to see in our downtown and not leaving it just to the private sector and the property rights, right? So I would definitely like staff to, and I guess this is more of a legal sense of homework for Catherine, to see if we can look at pulling a bond for aggressive property acquisition and, to meet the CRA's mission.
Yeah, I almost feel like that's the precipitating factor before you move forward with the, I guess, moving away from more of a housing-focused CRA to more of a commercial aspect is focusing on the land acquisition part. So, and everyone on this board most likely has some properties in mind they would like to see the city not only purchase but redevelop. So, as far as on my side of the fence, and I'm not going to speak for Tim, but I think we got a good idea where the board stands as far as like what you guys are looking for moving forward. And we can have an additional dialogue from a staff to CRA standpoint. Would you guys like to transition to the appropriation delegation?
I do. I just want to do a recap. I got some notes. That way we're on the record for like some actionable returns. So I got Marina Overlay District survey for the end. Federal Highway Corridor we just talked about. The senior housing RFP potential study. The lighting plan. I don't know if there's lighting plan. I think we kind of already have a return item on that, just coming back in January from what I hear. I don't know if there's anything I've missed. I know there's a lot of dialogue. I just know that these things, we could have return to us, hopefully.
Would you guys want us to do that one-on-one, or do you want to have a joint session again, maybe in 3 months, and we can provide an
I think we're doing it
update?
again in January.
Well,
if I'm
yeah,
not
we could do it
mistaken.
in January.
Yep.
Sooner than later,
Okay.
because by the time we do it 3 months, it'll be the time change again. If we do it in March.
The
and-
lighting conversation is
Lighting
different.
conversation has flared up
be
with the time
different,
change
right.
on my end.
At that point, we'll get an extra
School, the
hour.
kids.
Yes, but it will be lighter at night and we won't have to
Yeah.
worry.
But the lighting goes back to the seniors too.
Of
We are
course.
to build something that's putting them in the same location where they're gonna be able to hang out with each other and be social and use these amenities, but a lot of them don't drive. I took care of both of my elderly parents. They did not drive. The furthest my dad could walk was Hurricane Alley and back, and there was really nothing for him to be able to even, go to Kenny's Market and get a Sammy or something. It was horrible then. He got jumped there. So, yeah.
For clarification on the survey for the end, Tim, And Dan, you guys are gonna develop some potential, I guess, answers for the survey, then bring it back to us to approve?
What I would like to
Does
do
that
is
be okay letting them do this autonomously? I think we know not housing, and there's obviously, our LDR and the CRA plan that we have to abide by. So I think you could develop those answers from then, or maybe, I don't know, Tuesday's probably too quick of a turnaround. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Our
right.
Way too soon.
Our meeting's on
Oh,
Monday.
that's right, Monday, thank you.
I think it's better for us to work as a board and be interactive about it, and when we hear things, we can discuss it and see if we're going in the right direction. I think that's kind of
If-
our job as the board members.
If you guys want staff to work with Catherine, because I think the way we frame the survey is going to be very important, maybe put together 5 questions. I think it's important not to be too convoluted with the questions, be very direct and lay. And then I can also work with the Public Affairs Department with Sheila and to actually push that out to the community. And that way we can have some feedback for you guys.
Yeah, I just don't wanna wait
way to
3
go.
months to give you guys like the go-ahead. That's
Well, no,
my only
because, so
hesitation.
Catherine, I mean, we're having this joint meeting, we're talking about this survey, but really either of our hats can accomplish that, correct? So like on the December 3rd, if they have the survey ready for us to look at the first city commission meeting in December, we can, as the commission, we can review that and give authority with our hat of the commission, because this is a joint meeting, so it doesn't matter what hat we're using to finalize that survey, correct?
Right, so to
Right.
not speak for the city attorney, but I do not see an issue with you giving direction for your staffs to work together and then coming to the first available board meeting. It's just that whoever approves it, the survey will be issued in the name of that entity, right? So if the city approves it, it would come out. Additionally, if you all wanted to authorize your staff to run with this, it's a sufficiently administrative function, at least on the CRA side, that as long as you don't make they'll bring you back the survey results to make a decision with, so that would also be legally acceptable. You as the board do not have to approve the survey questions. It's certainly within your purview to do so if you like so, but I would not say it's a legal requirement.
Yeah, I mean, I would like to look at it, just make sure that we're on the right direction and then so my thought is on the first meeting in December, as the commission, we can say, yeah, we're good to go with the survey. It doesn't have to be a vote necessarily. It can just be, you guys are on the right track and you're free to go, is my thought.
Yeah,
And then
so
that
then-
way we get that out.
I
So then
agree
that would be
with-
the city. So then, Dan, that's a action item for you.
And we also are
And
able to
also-
capture the seasonal people that
Correct.
leave from
Yeah, I get it
Sterling
now.
and
And
Colonial.
from another perspective, I agree with Board Member Kelly, of having it at the first city commission meeting, and at the same time, some of our residents are familiar with the CRA, some of them are not, they might not really know, so if it comes from the city, people understand more that it's a, government question and things of that nature.
Yeah.
I do think that timing it around the time we do the demo, there'll be a lot of media presence around that, so the survey being released at
That'd
that
be
time
good.
would be very well. And I think we also are planning a demo party, a demo breaking kind of, groundbreaking or something there.
Camera party? Yes.
Yes, yes.
Yes.
A wrecking ball. We'll take turns riding on.
Yes,
Yes.
that has to be a thing. Mayor Shelton on a wrecking
I
ball
was gonna put
coming through.
Angela on it. I mean, hey.
She's had enough medical treatment
I know,
now
it's the last thing
in
I
her
need. I'm
last
just
6
starting to get my
months.
vision back, guys.
We're talking about Brandon the city here. Come on, this is a perfect way.
Well, we are gonna play that over some speakers.
Board Chair, respectfully, I apologize. Before you move on to your next item, if I may clarify your legal tasks, which I understand to be to work on this parking contract amendment. You'd like for me to consult with bond counsel and bring you back options for that and work with Dan on the survey.
Correct.
Thank you.
And again, yeah, I think the survey, if it is providing some visionary things, because some people might want things that we just can't do there because of the elevation of the property and things like that.
Stuff that we can't do that.
Right, so, I mean, even I've wanted some things and been told, no, it can't be done just by the leveling of the property or the fill, I don't know, I'm not a builder, but the fill and things that need to come in, so. I don't know, I'm just happy to see that we're able to start saving some people's lives by that place not being open anymore.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Okay,
Okay.
we're moving on. The next item for discussion and consideration is the 2026 state legislative priorities. Mr. Tack?
I'll actually turn this over to the city staff, actually.
Okay, so
Yes,
Candace.
Hi. Can anybody hear me? Okay. So I've given each of you two folders. One, Vice Mayor, when we had the conversation at Tuesday night's meeting, you had asked for the county's priorities. So that's in your second folder for you guys to take a look. Obviously, they're going to be very expansive because of all the municipalities they have to consider with their priorities. So what I put together is just a kind of a quick draft document for the commission to review it, give me some feedback. We can add anything additional that you'd like to have in here. So just to go over, I do have a couple copies in the back if anybody would like one, but once again, it's a draft. So home rule is something we normally champion every year that we do this. Obviously, I think you're all aware, you guys know your communities best, and so you guys should be able to make your decisions. Property taxes, obviously, we knew this was coming up. There is not like one bill that's out there that's like, number one where we need to kind of go after and say we oppose this. I did add in your packet, I got from Ballard, the Speaker of the House, put out a memo about that particular item. And there's a few different joint resolutions that's out there. Talking to Matt at Ballard, he just said that these items are going to continue to come up. If they make it out of committee, then we'll know. If there's changes, I'll update the commission and let you know where that's at. Commissioner Turkin, did you have something you wanted to say?
No, I
Okay.
did speak with a few representatives last night and potentially the governor. And it looks, I know there's a fear with all these potential property tax initiatives being on one ballot. It seems that's not going to be the case. It's going to be scoped down to one item after it goes through committee.
Yeah.
And different processes. It seems that the potential priority for the next legislative session next year may be a huge focus on local government, improving permit processes was the first thing that I heard, and looking at expediting development was essentially what seems to be the tune. Again, this is a little bit of speculation. One thing that I did discuss that seemed to have caught a little bit of traction was expanding the use of our enterprise funds, right? I think there's a huge mutuality win there, because if there's discussion of eliminating property tax, repealing the homestead, or redoing the homestead, whatever that looks like, it's going to affect local government spending and revenues. And so, one of the potential solutions is expanding the enterprise use funds and, expanding that restriction from Florida state statute. And so that's something that I think is tangible that we can look at in preparation. I don't know if that's like the highest priority, but I think that gives a solution to Tallahassee. It gives a solution to us to be prepared, right? Because many times, again, we generate all this revenue, let's say in the building fund, but we're limited on its use, right? For certain capital projects, et cetera, et cetera. So I think there's an opportunity there where we can work with Ballard, work with any state reps we have relationships with, to really come up with a win-win alternative. I've talked to a couple reps to try to get that and sponsor that bill. I don't know what that looks like, but I just a thought, because we're gonna run. There is gonna be something done about property taxes. Just don't know what it's gonna be yet. So I just want to throw out a potential idea. That's something that Adam actually, Adam and Andrew had discussed with me. So I think it's a great idea, something we should take with and run.
Okay. Then the third item is unfunded mandates, which we don't want them to pass anything that we don't have funds for. There was a Senate bill last year that got passed, and so there's litigation. It's Senate Bill 180. It goes against like land regulation, what we can do, and some municipalities and counties have looked at it as like it prevents us from being able to prepare pre and post hurricanes. So I can get more information on that if you'd like, but that's kind of in the same vein. We normally oppose anything where we're not going to have funds to do it. The next item is opportunity zones census tracts. So this originated from a piece of legislation in 2017 for the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act. It basically just encouraged private investment into distressed communities. The governor selects the tracts. City of Boynton Beach has 2 of the original 11 that were passed by Governor Scott. And so it's just asking for municipalities to be able to have some kind of recommendation of like where we'd like to see those in the community. Adam did send that forward to me as part of economic development. That was a concern of theirs. Likewise, the next one goes into Job Growth Grant Fund, and this was also an economic development item. That just basically allows for like funding to bring in new businesses, to train the workforce, those type of items.
Candace, real quick, sorry,
Yes.
so I don't forget.
Sure.
On that grant fund, do we get grant funding for that, for job growth?
I'm not sure on that one. It's not something that Myrna and I haven't handled that with Myrna yet. I can ask Adam and see.
Yeah, I would like to know if we've received any of those funds and what we're doing, because I know that we, as part of, our budget, obviously we have our economic department and roll out, grants every year, but, if we can capture some state funding specific for job growth, I think, I would like to know if we've gotten that in the past and what our plan is to pursue that a little bit more. And this is super important. I'm glad that we're doing this. Thank you, Commissioner Turkin, for starting this process, because I really want to make sure that we're prepared. I feel like sometimes we go up to Tallahassee and we get up there and the Palm Beach County Days is just like a day of, like, you're bouncing around to offices and you're talking to people, but to really know what the staff's, what you guys are working on in the background and what we can work on separately and independently outside of Palm Beach County Days, because sometimes it's, it's a lot that they cram into 24 hours. And then on the unfunded mandates, can you, it doesn't have to be today, you can get back to me, but what unfunded mandates are we still struggling with and that are causing us some issue, and is there anything that we can do about that, in the future, as far as, getting some support in Tallahassee to maybe, modify those mandates in the future?
Okay, I can get that to you.
Thank you.
And the last one that I had on here, Adam did send it for public safety, is that the 911 increase, they're seeking to have that because the call centers, the carriers only give like 40 cents for the calls, and that goes to certain basic infrastructure, this or that. But then the call centers, which there's 16, the municipalities end up picking that extra cost up that's not funded. So they're trying to get an increase with that for those activities. One item that I didn't add on here, because I want to talk to the city manager and the chiefs, is that there's a proposed amendment to Chapter 365, Section 171 of Florida Emergency Communications State Plan, and that would impact those answering centers. They're trying to go to like maybe a centralized county one, so I need to have a little bit more dialogue with the chiefs to see where we all stand with that, and then I'll be able to report that back to the commission. The
municipalities won't be able to have their own independent 911 center, is that what that is? Or call center?
It appears that way, or they won't be able to transfer. So I wanted to get some little bit more information on that before putting it on here, but I do know that some other municipalities have kind of started to talk about it, that have those centers, and so I'll be able to give that to the commission once I get to talk to the chiefs.
Thank you, yeah, because, obviously, we know in the city, on the west side, we have a lot of overlap between the county, and it's gray in some areas as far as who handles what, and I know we have a lot of crossover between dealing with, county dispatch and city dispatch, so if you could get back to us on that, that would be great, and if it's something that we need to be, working on with our contacts. Thank you.
And the next page, page 3, we just put back in here the legislative appropriations requests that have previously been sent to the commission, just to have this in our packet, of course. And the next item in your packet were actually the bullet points on those projects. So Myrna put this together, we reviewed them. There's a few definitions for like trenchless pipe bursting and things of that nature, so some terms that maybe you wouldn't recognize. So that's in there for you. Once you guys review this, if you'd like us to add any sort of bullet points to this, we can certainly do so. But these are the 5 projects that we have that we've submitted to Ballard to get sponsors. And the High Flood Swift Water Rescue Response Program has sponsors. Berman's sponsored in the Senate, and I have to go back and look and see who did it for the House, since we don't have Rep. Casello.
Thank you for the one-pager on the marine response facility. I think this one has great potential. My only ask is if we can add some form of language that, and you kind of touch on it with the regional safety capacity, but multi-jurisdictional area served, I think, is what representatives are going to look for. So that way it's not just,
For Boynton.
Right, correct. Yeah.
We
And
had
so
that in
I
our
think- And then that also allows us to turn this into multiple representatives.
Correct.
Where it could impact, even if they're inland, you have a lot of people that go east to the beach, right? So this isn't just
Correct.
about coastal communities. I think this is a Central South Palm Beach County multi-jurisdictional, initiative that we can, really, really propose. But this is great. This is exactly what I think the instruction was, and so I think this is awesome. Thank you.
We'll add that to the sheets. We did obviously have that in our proposal when our submission when we sent that, but we will add that to this
And
for
then
sure.
when this is revised, can I just get a copy of it?
Of course. Yeah, no, we'll send them back out. This was just an initial view, so you could, look at it and say, are you able to convey what this project is? Do you feel comfortable? And then give us feedback. We'll add an item or two, like you just asked for, to each of these, and I'll give them back to you.
Perfect. And then Candace, as it pertains to the Marine Response Unit, when I would assume, and if I'm not assuming, then I'm asking, that we're including and that we're having communications with the neighboring cities, municipalities that would utilize this to put this on their radar, that we're asking for this and we want your support. And, because what happens when you go to Tallahassee is that you're made appointments and you go in the office and you talk about your initiatives. And we have no way of knowing if Highland Beach went and talked about our initiative and another city went in support of it. So I want to make sure that we also are really collaborating with those towns and villages and municipalities that would be utilizing this to make sure that it is a priority on their list too when they're up in Tallahassee as well. And that to just reiterate the importance of it, that it really is, like Commissioner Turgan said, a South County initiative.
And we can certainly do that. We normally do that when we get the letters. So I typically like to do a delegation style letter, so you can get that buy-in from everybody so they can really see that impact. That was something for the high water rescue vehicle, because that's a statewide that can be deployed.
Sure.
So, my guidance on that was to, look across on the West Coast. If we could deploy it statewide, get those members to go ahead and sign into a letter. So that's something that, I'll work with fire rescue to see about, what their letter is, and we can kind of help that. But yes, ma'am, we can do that for sure.
Thank you, Candace.
Thank you so much
So
for
there-
doing this. This helps me a lot because it's my first time dealing with this, so I love that I have this to digest, because I was
Organized.
Yes, this is very.
I'm like, what am I going up there for? What are we
First time
doing?
we've had anything like
Okay,
this, so.
because I
this is
thought we were
great.
just going up there and meandering around, being
That's-
like, please
no,
give
and-
us some
Yeah.
money.
Kind of what we do.
I'm
So
also
Candace-
working
I've never
with your,
meandered, I don't know.
with your commission aides, so your travel, I'm gonna give that to Ballard, and then we can start setting up meetings for you while you're there
Okay.
in Tallahassee. So I know that, I think Commissioner Cruz is now attending, and so I'm gonna continue now that I think that we have all your travel, your flights, booked now. I'm gonna get with them on, Monday, because Tuesday's the holiday, and send that to Matt. Okay?
Great.
Yes, sir.
Candace, I really want to thank you for putting this together, because one of the things we did the last time we were up there is that we went together to some because there was commonality in the wish list, I can call it that. And then there are points where we separated based on what was on our sheet which you have here. I guess one of the questions is, which one of these are on both county and city of Boynton sheet
Actual-
that we
okay,
could
for
easily
the-
distinguish if we wanted to separate when we get up there to Tallahassee, one go one way, one go another?
So there's three, and you'll be able to see it in the document you have, but
Okay.
property tax was on there. This is what you're referring to, right? The actual legislative priorities, correct? So property tax was on there, opportunity zone census tracts were on there, and the 9/11 fee. So we're just lockstep with what staff here believes we need to support, as well as the county.
Very good.
I didn't, now the other item that I have to talk about with the chiefs that may get added once I talk to staff and CM, and then I send, I don't believe that was in the county document, but, that's the only one that I didn't see.
Great. Good job.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Is there anything else that we would need to discuss today?
Nope.
I know everybody's like, it's Saturday, let's blaze. I have to work, so I don't know if everybody else gets to go and enjoy your day, but I hope you'll enjoy it for me.
Yep.
You know, with everything in the press talking about how we're going to get an influx of New York buyers coming down. I don't know. I already got 2 calls, so I'm out with New York buyers yesterday and today that flew in, so we'll see.
Good for you. Let me know if you get overloaded.
I know, right? I know. I appreciate everyone coming in
Out west.
today.
There's lots of homes out
Right.
on 441. Go out west.
And I appreciate.
Sitting empty.
I appreciate the 3 citizens. I know Mildred, you're always here, so you're like one of us now. But I appreciate you all coming in on this Saturday morning, so thank you so much. And all those in favor, do I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
All those in
Second.
favor say aye.
Aye.
Everyone have a good Saturday.
Thank you.